Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads and must converse is the channel. Thanks for coming by. Today I'm just going to share some newly acquired books, just the kind of thing that I'll read, just, thumb through, read at my leisure. I won't sit down necessarily and read all the way through, although a couple of these I am going to read all the way through. A little bit of some book mail from another booktuber, and some very interesting stuff. So I had a buddy come into town this last weekend from Arizona and was hanging out with him, and it was a great time. But when I went down to the Atlanta airport and picked him up, it afforded me an opportunity to be in downtown Atlanta, and it had been so long since I visited this my favorite bookstore in the Atlanta area is Atlanta Vintage Books downtown. So we stopped by and I showed him my favorite bookstore and I did a little bit of shopping. It has been a while, so didn't know what I was going to find. So this is what happens when you don't know what you're going to find, right? The first thing that I found that was really interesting and fun is the complete works of Pseudo-Dionysius. So Pseudo-Dionysius is almost an anonymous, figure. Don't know exactly, I guess, who the person is explicitly, but wrote in the 15th to 16th century. This was a huge influence on medieval spirituality, medieval Western spirituality. Very mystical in nature. He goes through things like the celestial hierarchy, the divine names, mystical theology. And so I love this subject matter and have touched on some of the works of Pseudo-Dionysius, but never had a full volume that I could kind of just study myself. So I was really in happy to find that one. It was an instant kind of grab for me when I saw that I could get the complete works in one volume there. Classics of Western spirituality there. I found an unread copy of Gurdjieff's Meetings with Remarkable Men. This I have not had any experience with. I've only done some loose research as to Gurdjieff's spiritual system. I see that he is someone who actually married a bunch of spiritual understanding systems. He married a bunch of systems and actually just kind of created his own outward way of practice from, a lot of ancient spiritual systems, and very, very interesting. Gurdjieff is very, very interesting. Was a genius, kind of like a polymath kind of person. His spirituality has a lot of different aspects to it, and none less than, psychological, a personal psychology. I found this looks pretty good, and this is the biblical tradition in Blake's early prophecies, the Great Code of Art, by Leslie Tannenbaum. Hardcover, got the Mylar on there, just completely great addition to have. And this is going into just the early prophetic books: America, Europe, Song of Los, Book of Urizen, Book of Ahania, and Book of Los. From the flap here it says, it's a detailed examination of the ways in which Blake used biblical tradition and how biblical tradition gives form and meaning to his early prophetic books. Leslie Tannenbaum shows what Blake meant when he called the Bible the Great Code of Art, maintaining that Blake's understanding of the Bible was shaped by the critical and exegetical traditions surrounding Scripture. He demonstrates how the Lambeth books can be best understood in the context of these traditions. Wonderful. You know, any help with working into Blake's stuff, I'm all about. I have a really good understanding of Blake. I love William Blake, but there is always more, because Blake was one of these true artists that his art was inseparable from his own person. So Blake is implicit in his art, and what he thought and felt obviously comes through, but who he is and was is in his work, in his artwork. So I loved it. I loved finding that. Not a lot of critical works that you can find focus on those early books, so that was cool. This one seemed cool, and this was a really cheap buy, so I just went ahead and went for it. Parallel Myths by Bierlein. This is an exploration of different mythologies and like just stories, the myths, and how they how there's kind of similarities between different cultures and their myths. There's a whole section on the cast of characters and calling out different ancient peoples and the kinds of characters that are found in their mythology. Greek and Roman, North, India, Norse, India, Egyptian, Hawaiian, Aztec, and more. There's a whole section on creation myths and comparing the different creation myths. There's like 15 or 20 different creation myths that are touched on in here. There's just so many different traditions. It's ridiculous how many different ancient peoples that this kind of touches on, and communicates some of their mythology. And so I was really interested in it, and since it was just this floppy, paperback and cheap, I just went for it. So I'll be, just kind of perusing that at my leisure. One that I found that was really cool is Becoming Vajrasattva, the Tantric Path of Purification. So Tantra is that third iteration of Buddhism in India and Tibet. And so it started, Tantra, the tradition started some 500 years or 1,000 years even after the Buddha's death. So even like around the 1st century of the Common Era. And what Tantra really is creative visualizations and meditation, visualizing meditations on certain Buddhas and certain mandalas and palaces that they might be inhabiting. And with that is chants that you might do, and it becomes a full body practice, and it becomes a full mind practice. And that's what you're doing, is constantly integrating all the different parts of yourself into your practice and becoming a Buddha. Now, Vajrasattva is not a historical figure at all. Vajrasattva is the name for God, for lack of a better word. What most people would even just think when they think of like the Most High God, it doesn't serve to call him a being, or to call it a being, that's for sure. But that power, or that energy that is prevalent through everything, that is giving rise to the manifestation of everything. So Vajrasattva is like the primal Buddha that gives rise to all enlightenment energy in the creation. And so I thought it cool just to get more into because I love the tantric path. So this is a very, very cool one, and this is the last one that I found and that I got on my haul there, and it is A.E. Waite's Brotherhood of the Rosy Cross. A.E. Waite was a very influential figure in, this kind of Western mystery tradition writings. Put a lot of stuff out there. This is a huge work. Now, this explores just the Rosicrucian tradition. The Brotherhood of the Rosy Cross is the Rosicrucians. And this explores their roots, their beliefs, and also different people that are influencers on their belief system, even if they weren't, traditionally part of the, the brotherhood or the fraternity or whatever you might want to call it. Somebody like Jacob Boehm. He was somebody who was, privately, enlightened, privately practicing, and gained a very deep spiritual understanding. So A.E. Waite was a super influential person, and this is just all about that kind of tradition there. And if you don't know who A.E. Waite is, Jason from Bibles of Bookland showed a first edition of the Pictorial Key to the Tarot. He wrote that, and he actually is the creator of the most recognized tarot deck in the world, which is called the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. That Waite is A.E. Waite. So, just to give you a taste of how influential he is, when it comes down to it, you don't see the tarot in popular culture 99.9% of the time without it being that tarot deck right there, that symbolism right there that is in there. So, thank you for kind of joining me on this going through my little haul here, because I've already thumbed through some of these, got to it this last weekend, and Matthew from Mayberry Bookclub was doing a little unhaul, and he was, just saying, hey, if any of you guys want to pick up any of these books, just holler at me. And he showed me a book, and he showed a book that I was definitely interested in. So Matthew, you're a beautiful person, brother. You are a very generous and a great guy. So I really appreciate that. I'm happy that I have in my possession a book that has been loved and had time in your little tiny house. I enjoy that, and I really enjoy your content, brother. Very cool. So what I got is The Castle of Crossed Destinies by Italo Calvino. Thank you very much, brother. I waited to just open it while I was on here, and very cool. A very special annex of the House of Fiction, and the games that Calvino plays there are dazzling, says Walter Clemons on the back. And I actually call that out because that's my my last name. So there's something there. And just to show the kind of synchronicity that happens, guys, 3 Tales of Madness and Destruction. And what do we got going on in here? It is the Terra. It is the Terra. You saw, I just opened it. How awesome is this? There's the Death card. There's the Universe or the World card. Temperance. Across the whole book, there's the Tower. Across the whole book are these tarot cards. The Magician, This is the Tarot de Marseille. The pictures that are on here is the Tarot de Marseille, which is a French tarot. Calvino, obviously using that tarot for his book there. I mean, but it's through the whole book. As I was just thumbing there, I saw the Hangman. It just keeps going. So, what a synchronicity, right? That's how it happens, guys. You know you're in the right place. You know you're doing the right thing. So it's happy for me to share with my BookTube brothers and sisters. Thank you again, Matthew, for that one. I'm gonna get to that one pretty quick, just off of the synchronicity for sure. So my pleasure to share, y'all. Hope you enjoyed this, and drop me a line if you have any experience or are interested in any of what I've shown, and I'll talk more about them when I read through them. So, have a good evening. Catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.